Hi everybody, I am Julia AnchorHaven and this is a full disclosure diary episode, and in this series I'm talking about my personal things that are going on, my personal debrief, recall that I'm getting, emotional things that I'm going through and stuff like that. This one is going to be a recap of my level 49, so I'm heading into my birthday in a couple of weeks and I will be unlocking level 50. So we will see. This past year has been an absolute whirlwind, and I can quite honestly say that I'm not the same person in 2025 as I was in 2024 or ever before. I'm a very, very different person. And there's been a lot of personal growth, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of major, major discoveries and up levels. So that's been pretty awesome. And I've got some really good, supportive, grounding friends around me right now, which is really, really important. Whew, so it's been a hell of a year. And my year kind of started in January with having some readings with Soma Ara, the Palladian child, the Palladian channel. And I was asking some quite tough questions, and the Palladians were giving me quite a lot of interesting information. Some of it was from last October when my sister had a reading, my sister Suzanne, Sapphire Soul, and it came out that we had all these past lives together, that we went back to like the Essenes, and the even Knights Templar had come up in a reading, and like the Ark of the Covenant and that kind of thing had come up in one of the readings. So I knew things were going to get a bit deeper this year because that's what happened there. So in January, I think I must have had another reading from Soma to kind of set off the year. I also, because I'm an Akashic reader, I work with the Akashic Oracle, but I also work with Marina Beach as my personal mentor. So I kind of have at least 4 readings throughout the year to kind of set the tones. That's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be pulling some cards as well to set the tone for the next 12 months forward. So in February this year, I met Sean Bond, and although I knew him from Typical Skeptic, he was a guest on the show. It was the first time I'd ever really booked in. I think I'd had a couple of distance healings with him, which were fantastic. And but I booked in for an actual session that was recorded, and it's available on my channel or his channel, I think, from February 2025. And that was the first time when kind of my energy was unlocked in a deeper way. So I knew there was some strange things going on because I'd worked with Felix Hyde over the last couple of years, and he is a UK quantum healing and DNA restructure. We've got videos together on my channel here, and Felix Hyde had, helped me access some memories of being on Orion, being a scientist in a lab, or being on a ship and things like that. And these things had just kind of come out of nowhere with no context. So I had no idea. Why would I be stealing a ship? It just didn't make any sense. So it just left me very confused at the time. And then I met Sean Bond and everything changed. Yeah. So Sean Bond is from psionicleague.com, and you'll hear me talk about him all the time because he really did change my life. Okay, I'm not joking. So very quickly, within the first 10 minutes of the video, he's saying, you've got alters. So my mind has been fractured. Oh, yeah, you're in the SSP. You're in the Secret Space Program. You're a super soldier. What? And then he said, oh, do you know what MI5 is? MI6? I'm like, yeah, that's so he started to unlock all these things that have been cloaked for a really, really long time. And after I had the session with Sean Bond, I was spinning, and I've taken the rest of the year to unlock and unpack the information that he gave me. But I also, off advice from a friend, I had a session with Jessica Morocco and Peter the Insider. So I did a private video with Jessica Morocco, and then I did another video with Peter the Insider. So those both videos are available on her channel. The initial one is available on my channel as well. So I think I uploaded it a couple of months ago, but it is from March 2025. And after the session with Sean, my mind had started to unlock a lot more, and I've made contact with a Black Pyramid ship that was local to me. So you hear me asking questions about that with Jessica. I'd had an experience years and years ago in France where I'd seen somebody who looked like me, so that got me thinking about clones and synthetics and things like that. So you hear me talking about that with Jessica, where she confirms, yeah, she sees me everywhere. And I had a few locations where I felt like I'd been, and she said to me, how are you tuning into the locations where your clones are? So I started thinking, okay, something's going on here. And I said to her, it feels like the Orphan Black TV show. And she said it's exactly like the Orphan Black TV show. And do you have, you know, there's a brother just like in the TV show. So, and that's when it was kind of made that connection that I might have like a super soldier partner, which, you know, a lot of us call it trauma twin because you were bonded through the programs that way. And she connected me to Drago Reed. And even though I wasn't really, I followed Drago, but I found it really uncomfortable to watch him talking at the time. So I used to just think, oh, I can't watch that guy, you know. Well, little did I realize, because there was layers and layers of trauma there, and there was a deep energetic bond. So once we'd made that initial connection privately, we both knew something was going on there, and now I can even see the similarities in us as well. So we were kind of created as a unit, as a team. So Drago's coming to the UK in 6 weeks' time for the for the UK Disclosure Conference with Miles Johnson from basistv.org. So that's in Pewsey, in the south of England, in Wiltshire, which is not that far from Glastonbury. So if you are in the UK or if you're in Europe, please do come along. I will be there. I'm just supporting the event. I'll be doing some side podcasting interviews with the Typical Skeptic. So we'll see what's going on there. But yeah, I get to meet Drago for the first time. So when I first met Drago, there was a moment, and I started to pull cards, and it was kind of like this balance was happening. Our energies were being balanced. And in that moment, I knew that when I healed, he would heal. And as he healed, I would heal. It was very bizarre, because I said to Jessica on the initial video, I feel like there's always been a piece of me missing. Like there's somebody missing, somebody that knows who I am, you know, unapologetically knows who I am. There's somebody who I've experienced things with together, but I don't know. It's like that person is a shadow and I just don't know who they are. And then I found out there's that connection with Drago Reed. So that made a lot of sense for me. And we spent the rest of the year just kind of tuning in. And yeah, there's definitely something there. I take everything with a pinch of salt. So, but when you start to get memories of that person in, and you start to feel like you've got a memory of that person running, and you're locking into their heads up display and stuff like that, yeah, there's definitely something there. So, and he's been doing his own work separately, so we don't do work together at this point. But I started to do healing later on in the year. So this was just in March when I started to connect to the ACIO. So I had a session with Jessica and Peter, the Insider. And that's a 2.5-hour session. You know what? I do recommend it. There's a lot of good information that comes out. There's also a lot of just kind of like, really kind of information. So I've taken the whole year to unpack the bits that felt true to me and to get them verified by other sources. So what I've done this year is I've kind of developed a 4-step protocol of working with certain people in the community that I'm drawn to. Okay, and you know, the people that I'm drawn to might be not the people that you're drawn to for your work, but what I've discovered is there really are, the soul code thing is true. You know, people really do hold a piece of your puzzle, and I've felt it. I've witnessed it this year. It's very, very strong. I connected with somebody in the last month who had a piece of my soul code going back to the Lyran Wars, and we started to do some work together now, and even just general conversation, we're healing. I've had it confirmed by Ivan Teller, the ET psychic, that yeah, you're healing the Lyran Wars like it was yesterday, he said. So yeah, so this thing is quite important. So this year kicked off with me kind of getting plunged into the Galactic Secret Space Program, which I had an interest in, obviously, because obviously I'm drawn to like space and cool stuff. But I'm very much a Star Trekky person, not a Star Wars person. And I know Star Wars, a lot of people think it's been kind of reflected. A reflection of the Orion Wars, and I've had that come up in my quantum readings quite a few times. I'm holding rage from the Orion Wars, and I'm processing rage for the galaxy and stuff like that. And it does make sense because I was very, very angry in the first 25 years of my life. I was so much anger. So yeah, so I started off my year like that, and I didn't have a lot of goals for 2025 because I knew at some point I was going to need to have a foot surgery to get my ankle fused together, because I have osteoarthritis. So some days I have good days mobility and some days I have bad. And as we move into winter, it gets worse and worse and worse. And my bones have actually started to deteriorate in the ankle and foot joint. And they try to repair themselves. So everyone says, why don't you just heal it? Why don't you just heal it? Yeah, I've tried and other people have tried. And what happened was bone spurs developed. And when these gnarly bone spurs start to rub against each other, even more damage happens. So I did have in November, August and November, I think only one round, it was August. I had is it like cortisol injections that they put into the ankle? And that was so painful, injecting directly into the bone. That I vowed I would never do that again, and that the surgery might even be better than that. And you know what? It was. It really was. So although my body went through so much with the surgery in June, I'm glad that I did it. I actually am glad. So this surgery has been successful, but I'm heading into the 5th month of recovery now, and I'm still not fully walking. I did a big event at the weekend, and then I'm on my 2nd day of recovery from that event. I've had to put the air boot back on and things like that. So yeah, so in June I had my foot surgery, and the lessons attached to this was very much about allowing myself to receive healing, to be able to sit in allowance and know that there was nothing else I needed to do other than heal. And that's a really big lesson for me, because I am a doer. I'm a human doing, not a human being. It's very hard for me to just be. But what I did manage to do was I had a few trips already planned, so I still managed to take those trips with some very supportive friends around me and a wheelchair. So I went to Glastonbury a few weeks after I'd had my surgery, and I had again it was a very much test of patience and allowance in Glastonbury. And there was even a moment when I was left in the temple space with the Magdalene energies alone, and I just had to surrender. I just had to surrender, and as a priestess, everyone, you know, that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to be the sacred witness. But for me, as a human doing, it was quite hard. So I managed to sit and just drop into allowance and open my heart and allow compassionate healing to come in. Especially when I was at the Chalice Well Gardens, and all I could do was sit at that lower pool while my friends went off and explored the full gardens for 90 minutes, and I'm just sitting at that one pool. But I made connections to the elementals this year in a big way, and part of that was because of this must have been in July, because of the Full Disclosure Now conference in July. There was the forest people present, and my energy must have been really strong at the conference, because I got a visit from forest people. So, you know, my friends were there and I was watching it live and things like that. So, and I got this feeling that there was a forest person in my room that I couldn't see, but I was being watched. And when I asked in my mind who was it, I got like a female teenage Sasquatch. And I've had it confirmed by 2 other people that yes, that definitely happened. It was real. Even though I couldn't see them, they were there. So when I was at the Chalicewell Gardens, I felt like I was tuning into the forest people, I was tuning into the elementals, and I could feel waves of energy moving down my body and out my foot. So I was getting like a chakra flush coming through my body, all the beautiful water energies and the kind of nature forest energies there at the Chalicewell in Glastonbury. So that was really, really beautiful. So June and July was all about just allowing myself to heal this year, and they were really hard lessons for me to learn, because I love to be very busy. But one thing I did do from my surgery was I went back into that commitment of daily meditation. So I think I know 2024 and 2023 I did a lot of daily meditation when I could, even if it's just 30 minutes here and there. Daily meditation is so important, and that is my #1 top tip, is daily meditation. And it does not have to be long, but there does need to be a regular practice in place, and I can clearly say that has totally blown open my mind. It really has. So when I was recovering from my foot surgery, then that's what I did. I did daily meditation, and part of it was because where I'm living, my flat, my apartment was so hot. It's in the middle of a heat wave, and I couldn't go outside because I couldn't navigate stairs. I couldn't open the windows because I'm on like a main road, so there's a lot of traffic, and so I was really, really hot. So in the end, I just kind of hibernated, and I had some really profound visions and experiences, and was able to call in cosmic healing. So that was amazing. So this is June and July. Then in August, I thought, you know what, I'm going to revisit the groups. Misha Johnson has groups, and I'm going to revisit her support groups. I do recommend her support groups. You know, you can dip in and out as much as you like. So when I go, again, you're listening to others' testimony, and that can be quite activating or triggering. So, but we were asked to say something. And so I sat down and I was just thinking, what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about targeting, I thought. And then my mind said, no, my mind wrote down trauma bond, like with my trauma twin. And I got this big wave of emotion just of writing that down, that I had a trauma bond or a battle bond, which I think is a more appropriate term these days, because we're battle bonded with quite a few people. You know, our experiences are so deep, they're so emotional and traumatic that it goes beyond trauma bonding into battle bonds. So there might be, yes, there might be one person or a few people, you know, maybe even 4 or 5, that versions of you are bonded to in trauma in that way. But there's going to be plenty of others that you're battle bonded to as well because of the experiences you've had. So just by acknowledging that that was there, my body then moved into grief and processing. And I spent 10 days in August, that's when I started this diary, I spent 10 days acknowledging that that bond was there and it needed to be healed. And the way I was healing it was I was using my questions, I was using my access consciousness, I was tuning into my heart chakra. So each chakra holds memories, each chakra is a memory center, and the memory that it holds in there will help you with whatever situation you get into. It'll pull out the appropriate memory of when you've done that thing before, and that's how you'll respond. And that's the chakra energetics that's come from Lisa Erickson and Chakra Empowerments for Women. So when you move into chakra energetics like that and you think, okay, so what is that energy center actually holding? And what is the fascia of my body holding, my organs, what are they holding on to? And I was able to pull memories of me and my trauma bonded person, kind of walking towards you so that everything's looking nice, and then there's a deception, there's a betrayal, there's a programmed command or something there, and then it was over and over and over. So in August, even talking about it now, I can feel that there's still a lot of trauma and wounding in there that needs to be healed, because we're talking multiple lifetimes going back so long. It's not just this one lifetime, there's multiple versions of us across time space. So yeah, so in August I started to heal my heart. So again, that's top tip number 2 is we must do the heart healing, or you cannot proceed forward on your ascension journey in any easy way at all. So 2025, I got to the midpoint of the year and the heart healing started. So I moved into deep grief, deep trauma and wounding processing, and I am not an emotional person in the same way as other people seem to be. And Drago really described it on one of the Typical Skeptic podcasts, was that I'm a emotional psionic. So my powers, my abilities are linked into my emotions. So they're one of the first things that have been targeted. Is to suppress my emotions. So although it may seem like I have normal responses to things, a lot of my responses are learned responses. And it's the same way for a lot of people who are autistic or ADHD or have been through a lot of trauma or whatever. So I find that either I have neutral kind of response to things, like my day-to-day, I'll just be neutral, I'll just be on autopilot, or I have overly excitable energy. So sometimes you might see me getting super fangirl about things, and I just have this overwhelm of excitement like a child. Or I go into rage. I go into pure rage. So it's like, yeah, so I try and laugh as much as I can. I am a certified laughter yoga leader, so that really helped me get through my breakup with my husband in the last 2 years. It was brutal, and I laughed. I trained to be a laughter leader, and I laughed through it. So was it healthy? I think so. Is it still there? Oh yes, it still needs to be processed. But laughing is probably top tip number 3. So the heart healing is super important. So anybody says they've had their full Kundalini or whatever, if you've not been healing your heart, there's no way you could have your full Kundalini activation. There's no way it could be balanced, because it will literally stop at the heart and you'll be getting bolted upright in the night and things like that. So when our bodies are in balance, then yes, when you've done that kind of when you're feeling safe in the root, when you're feeling creative in the sacral chakra, when you're feeling strong and empowered in the solar plexus, and you're feeling compassion and empathy in the heart, yes, then you're on your way to your Kundalini. When your throat is nicely in balance and you're listening and you're speaking in balance, yeah? And when your mind is clear and you're getting visions and intuition and connection to your guides, then yes, your Kundalini is going to flow, yeah. But until you heal the heart, most of us are kind of stuck at that point, where the Kundalini is like butting heads against the heart center. Yeah, so we've talked about meditation has been my top tip for this year, and then moving into the heart healing, moving into laughing. So having as much fun and joy and ease definitely is my top tip number 3, because I think that's part of the mission, is to just spread as much high vibe energy as we possibly can. Yeah, how you do your mission is entirely up to you, but it's always grounded in love. It's always grounded in compassion, empathy, ease and joy. That's the mission, okay? And the more you spread that, the more will everybody else. So it'll become, you know, infectious. It'll take over. So in the work that I do, no matter whether it's podcasting or it is personal therapies, I'm always hoping that that person's going to have a fun time and that we're going to laugh so much, because laughter really is the best medicine, okay? When we do the laughter yoga, we're doing lots of arm movements and we're doing silly things, and we start off doing, like, you know, fake it till you make it kind of laughing, but very quickly that becomes contagious, especially with the eye contact from the group that you're in, and it just feels so joyous to do that. So I'm going to start to do more laughter yoga sessions, I think, so I've not done it for a long time and I really need to. So then we moved into September, when I started to do another sound healing course. I say another because it's my 3rd one. So I've done some sound healing on the crystal therapy master courses, and I did a 1-day sound course at the start of the year. Might even have been in January, which was really good. So it kind of opened up my awareness to things like crystal pyramids and crystal tuning forks that I wasn't aware of and stuff like that. And so my throat chakra is a bit blocked today. I'm just going to do my tube. So yeah, so as a sound therapist, I work with things like these wah-wah tubes. This is the 963. I'm not sure you'll be able to hear that. Okay. So yes, so I moved into another sound course, and then at the start of the year, so from January, February, January to just before March, just before I had, yes, March, June, January to April, I did a sound and lighting technician course, and which was very open and exclusive, which was great because I'm deaf. So I knew there was going to be a limitation to me doing sound check. But what we actually discovered was that my hearing aids do the sound check for me. So make it really difficult for me to use the sound desk because I can't get the levels on it. So me being a sound practitioner, I'm always trying to find my way around things because I'm not the only deaf sound practitioner out there. So, but I booked on a course August, and we just did August, September. We just did the last weekend recently, and this was a big one for me because the tutor made me feel very anxious. And I thought I was doing okay, but of course I wasn't hearing what everyone else was hearing. So, and when I tried to say, oh, can you just help me? And they were like, nope, either you've got it or you don't. And I was like, oh, this is not good. So I have my own college, AnchorHaven College of Mystical Wellness. And I try to be as open and supportive and reasonable adjustments as I possibly can for my students when they're doing, whether it's Reiki, crystal therapy, or, well, you know, chakra wellness, whatever we're doing. I do always try and make space for allowance to come in and to adapt the course to people's learning styles and things like that. And I came across a tutor that was so rigid in their ways that they had, even though they're accredited as well, that had no allowance for anybody who couldn't do what they could do. And so it was a really, really interesting lesson there. And I think it definitely helped me develop as a teacher as well, to see what worked and what didn't work. Yeah. So And I know we can't cater for everybody in our colleges. We can't do that. We can only do so much. But this was a big one for me. So I kind of went back to the second part of the course. I'd had a fight with the tutor on the first part of the course because they were, I don't like being told what I'm thinking. I don't like being told what my point of view is. So we had a bit of a butting heads kind of thing going on. But I got through the first level, and which we were doing, I did some long frequency tubes, so much bigger than this. I did big frequency tubes, and we did Tibetan bowls on the body, and we did shamanic drumming, which is perfect. But I couldn't do the gongs because I'd had a foot surgery. So I couldn't get around this massive triple gong setup because I couldn't put my foot down at the time. So when I went back recently, I was able to walk, but I had to not wear my air boot. Which of course is not good because I'm still in an air boot phase. And but I did it. I accomplished everything. So the tutor was very harsh and said, my wife's going to she's going to tell the truth. She's not going to give you any allowance, kind of thing. But she enjoyed it so much that she was snoring louder than my gongs, and the gongs were enormous, like, 42 inches or 45 inches. And so I accomplished that. I found my comfortable level. I managed to do a lovely gong bath. And I did, nice bowls on the body, nice shamanic drumming, Tibetan bowls, frequency tubes. We did quite a lot of different things, but I was able to just listen. So after having such an uncomfortable time on the first part of the course, I just thought, I'm just going to move into witness. I'm just going to be present. I'm not going to say anything. And that's not easy for me because I'm a talker. I've actually been trained to talk for a minimum of 4 hours for a job that I had when I was living in India. So, so I thought, I'm just going to be present. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to nod and smile. And get through this course. In the end, I did, and I did manage to get some kind of praise from the tutor. Not what I would call praise personally, but I did it. So while all this was going on, I've been, I've been integrating altars. I have been connecting with people in the SSP. I'm finding out that, yeah, I actually alter out. So in August, September, and October, I've discovered that there are different versions of me that actually come in and out. And I never really thought that was true before. I thought I was just me. And that maybe there was something that happened at nighttime when I was in my 20s, because I had like a demonic experience and so I've unpacked a lot this year. So I was working with David Purcell for about 3 or 4 months this year. And it also, with SSP stuff, it always starts off really nicely. Really nice connections with people, and then the more time you spend with each other, the more memories start to come in. And again, with all these off-world programs, whether it's Kruger stuff or Nakwaffen, Solar Warden, whatever it is, the German and the Japanese breakaways programs, there's all, Russians, UK, whatever, there's all, we start off thinking, oh, I remember this person. And you might just remember a couple of details about that person, or you might remember a setting of where you were, and you might think, oh, is that a memory, and you start to feel into it. And then the more David and I started to work together, the more uncomfortable it started to get, because David started to receive so much more memory-wise, and it was all very dark. It was all very tied into blood contracts and abuse and torture and things like that. So it got harder and harder. My heart's activating now as well, as I do talk about this. So David and I found it really hard to start to express these things. So we had to stop our videos for a while. And, we're still good pals, but we did have an experience that was, I found, a bit upsetting, and I know he was a bit upset with it as well, because we had to do some really deep healing. We had Audrey Walters help us with that. So, and initially I thought, yeah, that's great, that's resolved or whatever. But as time goes on, I think I still need much more time to heal from these memories coming forward, from these darker connections coming forward. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done there. So David and I are taking time to do our separate healing, just checking in with each other once in a while now. And so we're in a healthy space. But just know that once you start to uncover and you start to dig into these altars and these memories, it's not good. I've said this all year, it is not good. If somebody has an altar who is literally like super happy and chill or whatever, I'll be very, very surprised, because the altars, I've got more than 20 altars now, just going through my list today, or, you know, ones that I've connected into. Some of them I've had to send back to the Oversoul. When we did that big healing, a big cord cutting that David and I had to do, and it was yeah, it was from Nat Gruffin. So it was just very, very twisted. That's all I'll say. It was really weird. So, but David and I are still, you know, healing and reeling from that. We're going to be dealing with that for a long time. So, because we weren't all good. These were bad programs. We were literally programmed to do terrible, awful things, and that's the way the world was. Yeah. So if there's anybody that has memories that are all light and love and fluffy, and they've been in these off-world colonies and things, I'll be really surprised. I really will. Because what I've discovered so far is I've only got like a couple of good ones. Most of mine seem to be scientists, because that seems to be what my body's comfortable to remember. So first of all, you're going to get like a taster memory is what I think happens. You get like a little glimpse of something that seems nice. And then so you get a bit comfortable. Oh, my mind's showing me this thing, and it seemed nice. I felt happy. So when David and I first connected, I said to him, "You know what? I feel like we actually had quite a good life on that ship." And he said, "Yeah, we did. We were officers, so we had privileges." And I thought, okay, that's cool. And then as 3 months go on, I realised, wow, my altar's an absolute psycho. You know, and so the versions of me that are scientists are absolutely fixated on their work. There's no relationships, there's nothing. They just want to do their work, and it's as if they are, the rest of the world doesn't exist. That's the feeling that I get, especially from Ella and Nat Guaffin. And so I've been working with a few different people this year to verify things that I'm experiencing and pulling out of my own mind, and things that other people are kind of either remembering of me, or it's unlocking from files and things like that. So Sean Bond has been really good, doing quite a few sessions now on mine and his channel. Christy Campbell's been amazing as well. So when you get together with another psionic person, another psychic, who you can work together to open up that visual, and then she uses her intuition, and I can kind of feel into things in a deeper way. So together you become more empowered. So I've done quite a few sessions with Christy now, where we are looking into things that I've discovered and expanding into that, and allowing me to get a bit more comfortable with that information. Yeah, so it really is a multi-leveled discovery process. Once you start to unlock these different versions of you, these different lifetimes, these memories, it's all you. So at the beginning, I struggled with alters and aspects, and I was thinking, well, an alter is a fracture of my mind, an aspect is my soul is in a clone, is what I was thinking. But I realise now it's just all versions of me, because I can literally slip my consciousness in and out of all of these versions if I wanted to. And I have an ability to, I call it clone slip. So I can look at wherever my soul drop is, wherever I am, I can seem to tune into where these clones are. So there's versions of me that were taken and made from age 5 onwards. My DNA was taken and used, my soul essence was taken to create clones, and they've been used all over the planet and off-world as well. So Drago Reed calls it Echo Clone Template. So I actually have like an Echo chain. I have a chain of clones that follow me around, that are attached to me basically. And so that's really interesting. But I have an ability to tune into them. It's what I've discovered this year, and to kind of drop in and see through their eyes occasionally, or open up a map in my mind and locate them on a map, which is kind of cool. So Sean Bond and I have done quite a lot of kind of grid work. We've been doing vision questing, where we've opened up a map, we've tuned into different, like Australia, and we've both kind of tuned in and said, okay, there's clones and they're in this area and things like that. And when they've been in negative influence, when the clone's been made to do bad things, because obviously the clone is just a vessel, it's just a sleeve. When they've been made and programmed to do bad things, then I can call back my soul drop, my essence, and either, because working with John Whitberg, I understand the clone does actually have its own soul that comes in over a period of time, and it tries to push out your soul drop essence, your soul bite or whatever. So I'm still kind of dealing with, is the clone a real person by itself? If I take away my essence, is that then a real person? So that's something that I'm just working with and discovering. But I've also been working with Ivan Teller, and there's a couple of videos on my channel, and I did an interview with him recently, but there's 2 personal videos on my channel where I'm firing like 30 questions in 30 minutes at Ivan and his guides, and he can embody different ET races to answer your questions. So if you've not done it, I highly recommend it. A lot of information comes through, and then I rewatch. I take notes and I feel into the information and see what feels right. Ivan Teller also has a webinar service. He calls it Webinar. It's $10 a month, and you can just submit on a form 2 questions every week, and then on a Wednesday he'll record a video answering everybody's questions. So it's like 1 or 2 minutes, but you get clarity on things, or you get some information that you think, okay, that's really weird, let me spend some time with that information. So I still need to put in my questions for this week, actually. But I find that's been very motivating, because then I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to ask him? What let me go into meditation. What do I want clarity on? And then maybe I'll come out with a couple of questions. So that's been really beneficial, and that was recommended to me by Christy Campbell. She's been doing it for years, I think, and she's found it really beneficial as well. Yeah, so there's quite a few of us who do Ivan Teller's webinar, so do look out for that on his channel, or head to his website, ivanteller.com. So let's see, who else have I been working with? The past month or so I have been working with John Whitberg, and it's because I started to read his books. And when I was reading book 1, which was about the IBIS project initially, I started to think, okay, is this me? Now, there seems to be a disconnect with IBIS project terminology, because in the ACIO files, I am referencing the IBIS project, but it does seem to be a different project. So this is something that I'm working to get clarity on, because I think IBIS project is an umbrella term. So the one that John Whitberg talks about in his books is the one related to the Egyptian gods, where the children are taken and they are put into an Egyptian god body, and then they're used for projects on that. So I know he is in the book, and he is Sobek, like a crocodile, alligator god. And David Purcell believes he is Sekhmet, who's the cat, the feline god. And there's supposed to be 42 people in that particular program. Now, I was told that because I could visualize a particular crystal as a time travel device, that's IBIS project related. So I think there's different kind of offshoots of this program in different parts of the world as well, that probably was all going on at the same time, but under one umbrella. So there might have been different variations of the IBIS project. So that's something definitely to look into, because I have found somebody else who doesn't quite remember the crystal, but they remember the effects of the crystal, which was particular colors that I could see, and how I could see it. They saw the same. So although they don't believe about the Egyptian god thing. So there's like, sometimes it's like one big umbrella term, and then there's all these other mini compartmentalized projects that were very, very secretive. So if you weren't in it, you wouldn't know about it. So that's something to dig into. And so at the start of the year, when I had my ACIO interview, I asked the question about a character from a comic, from a TV show, that I thought could relate to me. And the reason I thought it could relate to me was because of an ability that I have, and generally how the character was portrayed in the TV show as well. Not only does it look like me and act like me, but she's got the same ability as me, and that's number 7 from Umbrella Academy. So, so there's quite a few things out there that actually look like me, like the Orphan Black looks like me as well, which is a bit weird. And so, yeah, so I asked that question, and apparently it was in my records that yes, I was number 7. And not only was I in Umbrella, but I was in Monarch, and I was in Montauk and all that kind of stuff as well, which came out through Sean. But I was in the Monarch and the Umbrella, so I was part of the merge, the Monarch Umbrella refugee group. And so initially, when we're told this from the ACIO, we're told that we were rescued by Kruger. And I've come to think of Kruger as, it doesn't make me feel good. This Kruger Corporation, or whoever they are, does not make me feel good, because they're a mercenary corporation. So knowing that I was part of this merge, and so was Brian Seng, and so was Drago Reed, and we're all pals, and we've got a pact that we can talk about this, the three of us, which is great. So yeah, so but as I started to tune into that energy more, and Drago did his own work on that separately, we've come to the realization that yeah, there was no rescuing involved there. So we were the worst ones. We were killing the handlers. We were breaking free of the programming. We were liabilities. But because so much time, energy, and money have been invested in the assets, they didn't want to just kind of like let us go or end us or whatever. So they put us in a new program, which they called Merge, and it was overseen by the Red Queen AI or QI, and we were basically a separate unit. But Drago's done a lot of work on this. This is still something that I need to feel into more, because I'm realizing that there's at least one version of me there. There might have been two versions of me in that same project. So it's really, really weird, the stuff that I've been discovering this year. And but yeah, so we're heading towards the end of the year. So this year, the lessons learned are allowance, moving into stillness and allowing myself to grieve who I was, the ending of my marriage and things like that for 20 years, which I'm realizing was handled under targeting and and things like that. Moving into sacred listening. So as part of being a podcast host as well, listening is a skill that we definitely need. And I don't, or sometimes I do zone out occasionally, depends on the guest I've got. So, and I keep getting told by Ivan Teller that I should use my intuition for questions, which I do. I honestly do. Like 75% of the questions that I ask my guests are all intuitive questions. When I go in and have a session with anybody, I only ask intuitive questions, or I'm verifying information that I've received from other people. So, but of course, yeah, ChatGPT has come into play a little bit this year. I'm using it less and less and less now, which I think is quite healthy. I think I started to try and program my ChatGPT to be that spiritual master, to have that love and light energy, to have some really positive focus. And I found it really beneficial this year. I don't think I would have been able to do quite some of the things I've been doing because of my surgery and all this overwhelming information that was coming in. If I hadn't had ChatGPT to support me, to help me with my social media, or to help me to write some things towards my courses and things that I teach, I think I would have really struggled this year. So, I'm happy with ChatGPT the way it is, using it less and less and less. Use your own discernment on things like that, because I grew up in the days of the Terminator movie. So I'm proceeding with caution for sure, because the future is what we make, and I hear a lot of weird stuff out there. So so third eye development this year, meditation commitments, very important. Daily meditation if you can, even if it's just 10 minutes of sitting in stillness. Yeah, even if that's it. So, do what you can there. Soul codes, pieces of the puzzle. There really are people out there that hold your puzzle. Okay, and as you meet that person, so when I met somebody recently, they were on a podcast and I was watching them and I could see them, and I'm hearing their voice, and my crown chakra just went on fire. And it wasn't even just my violet flame chakra, which is the flame that sits here. It was my full crown chakra went on fire, because I basically locked in on a piece of my soul that was held in that other person, and vice versa. So I FaceTimed them afterwards and I was like, who are you? Like, what is going on in my head? That's mad. And now we kind of realize that we have like a sibling connection from Lyra or something. It's insane. But yeah, so people do hold pieces of your puzzle, but of course, be careful who you're talking to, and be careful of how much information you share, and really trust how you feel when you meet new people, when you hear their voice, because you'll know. And there's some people, I kind of avoid certain people in the community deliberately, because I know that if I did approach them, something would activate, and maybe I wouldn't quite be ready to deal with what would come forward, a memory or a feeling or emotion. So there are certain people that I really go very slowly and take my time. So when people send me podcast requests and interviews and things like that, I don't always say yes, because I'm in my comfort zone with what I'm doing now, and I'm quite content. So please don't be annoyed or frustrated with me if you've asked me a couple of times to do a round table and I say no. It's because I'm just in my little comfort zone with what I can handle right now. That's where I am. So there's certain people in my community that I really trust, and other people, if I don't know you and I'm kind of drawing away, it's probably because we have had an interaction in the past, and I'm just not quite ready to deal with that other version of me that was processing whatever. So it's nothing personal to the people in the here and now. So to make that clear. And I'm sure I'll connect with everybody at some point and be friends with everybody. But there's a little part of me inside that is kind of saying, go slow, go slow. Because this past year, so much has unlocked for me since January, February. So much has unlocked. And a friend of mine said that it was basically not fair on me that it's unlocked so quickly, so rapidly, when they've had years to process, and I've had 8 months. So yeah, so I'm going cautiously, but of course I'm oblivious because my mind is like a child most of the time. So I can be quite innocent at times. I'm just stumbling into things, you know, not realizing the consequences of questions that I might ask, or files that I open and things like that. So I work with, like, sometimes when I work with Sean Bond, he won't let me access certain information yet, because he'll check with my higher selves first. He'll check with my soul, is she ready to receive this information? So sometimes it'll be a no. So I might have a question and he's like, nope, sorry, we can't access that right now. What is she allowed to know? That's what I've heard him say. So we're not always ready to receive all of this information in one go. We're going to get it little baby steps. Yeah, little baby steps as you're going. So, and I really appreciate that, because I see this whole year has unfolded very nicely for me, because especially with my ankle surgery, my foot surgery, there was things that had overwhelmed me, thinking about, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to get up and down the stairs? I live in an apartment, you know. And then it wasn't until I was in the hospital and I said, and they just said, it's fine, we'll call the paramedics for you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't need to worry this whole time. Like, the universe had it sorted, my guides had it sorted. I just didn't know. But I had to have that trust and faith. That was so important, is that I had the trust and faith, and I put myself forward, and my energy is flowing so much better through my right leg now as well, because I used to get pools of energy that would just kind of get trapped there in the ankle joint. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, that led me to my next point of being supported. So support is out there for you, whether it's an actual support group, or like I do evening groups as well, Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So I have Zoom support groups, which are very small. You know, we do healing, we do cards. Sometimes we'll have a topic, sometimes we'll just chat and things like that. And I've got some, you know, regular people. I've got Reiki masters, I've got witches. I've got a very small group at the moment, so it kind of fluctuates up and down. But on my Substack, so AnchorHaven.substack.com, you can access my support groups for £7.50 a month. That's it. So that's the cheapest way to work with me. If you want to connect with me, then that's the cheapest way. And you can jump in and out of the groups Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays. Saturdays we do Akashic record healing, so they're the cards on a Saturday. Wellness Wednesday or Awakened Wednesday, maybe I'll use a bit more galactic cards, like I've got the Gateway activation deck here. Mindful Mondays, generally we're easing into the week. So we'll do something calming. Yeah, or we'll work with fluffy cards like unicorns or something like that. So yeah, so allowing yourself to be supportive, because I was trying to micromanage everything, and then I realized I can't do that. I can't micromanage having my foot surgery. I can't micromanage every detail. I've got to move into quiet stillness. I've got to move into allowance. I've got to allow myself to receive support and healing. And I was really fortunate that I have my 2 sisters who are able to cook meals and things like that, because I'm a single parent, and my sisters were able to support me, and I've got some good friends locally who, you know, came to check on me, and then I've got my American friends who really kept me going as well, and sent me healing and things like that. So thank you so much, everybody. So I'm right at the end of my healing period, and now I'm not fully walking. I still need to use crutches, but I'm so much better than I was a couple of months ago, so I'm really happy with the way the surgery went. So yeah, so the support thing, so it's as an Access Consciousness practitioner, we use the questions of what else is possible, how does it get any better than this, and who does this belong to, which is probably one of the most important ones, because when your mind is just full of chatter. I've been getting quite a few different voices coming in lately, not saying anything important. So I think I'm just tuning into collective consciousness around me. But sometimes you can get that V2K, we get that voice to skull, yeah, and then it'll kind of, it's like bouncing off the skull. You'll hear something and it'll always be negative. It's never supportive when it's external interference. They're never going to say, oh, you're so amazing. They're always going to say something really horrible in your mind to give you doubt and fear, and that's what targeting is. So this year was me realizing that I was targeted, and that I wasn't just bad at being a human. And that felt good, to be honest. It did feel good, because I'm a pretty bad human. I am. I'm not very good at the day-to-day. Ivan Teller was saying the other day when we did our video, yeah, you need to still do your day-to-day. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wash the dishes. I don't want to hoover. I don't want to have to deal with neighbors and things like that. I don't really go out anymore. So I go out to my events, I do my mind, body, spirit fairs, but there I get to be me. Or a version of me. I get to be the holistic therapist, or I get to be the reader. You know, I get to do the public speaking. So this weekend I'm doing a talk on Light of Lemuria, taking people on a gentle meditation, a guided meditation of the golden healing temples. And then we're going to do an ascension discussion, because what I've noticed in my events this year is people are having experiences. They're having very, very unusual experiences, but they don't have the support team to talk about it. So one thing I do actually pride myself on is that you can tell me anything, absolutely anything. It's not going to shock me. It really won't shock me, especially with the weird year I've had. You can tell me absolutely anything, okay? And I will think, okay, what does this mean, right? So it'll always just put me into reflection. I'm never going to judge what's coming forward, because we are all one, yeah. And so if you're experiencing something, it's likely that I've already experienced it, or I know somebody who has, or whatever. So that's why the evening groups or support networks are so important. You need to have like-minded people to talk to. So I'm quite lucky that I've got two sisters. My older sister Suzanne, she is very similar to me, so she likes the same kind of things. She's not quite on the galactic wavelength yet, but she really is into everything else that I do. And then I've got my sister Pauline, who's a lovely spiritual person. She teaches Tai Chi and she's religious. So when I try to talk about what's going on with me, Pauline can't process it, because she's got her book, you know, she studied the Bible for 40 odd years. That's her reference, that's her grounded focus. So when I try to bring in unusual things that are happening with me, she's going to reference it through her Bible. And you know, and that's absolutely fine. So we talk about plenty of other things, yeah. So you're always going to have friends who you can talk about with grounded things, like every day. You'll have some friends who are, like, you know, interested in the spiritual, and then you'll probably have one or two die-hard weirdos that you can be yourself with. And I'm really lucky I've got quite a few people who understand the things that I'm going through, and friends that step forward as mentors as well, which is brilliant. Yeah, so be supported. So pushing boundaries this year, I have pushed a lot of boundaries. I really have. Physically, emotionally, mentally, I've pushed a lot of boundaries. So completing that gong course was a big one for me. Being able to work with gongs and kind of advanced sound healing tools, that was a big one, because I do wear two hearing aids. So when I take these off, I wouldn't be able to hear you unless you were right next to me, or you were screaming from quite close, then I'd be able to hear you. So pushing boundaries. So don't let yourself be limited as you're moving through your ascension journey. Don't let yourself be limited. Just keep asking, what else is possible here? What else is possible? Okay, so what does this mean? What else is possible? Yeah, so we open up our reality by asking questions. We ask as many questions as we can, and we do not try to answer these questions ourselves, because we just don't have all of the information. We can't micromanage the universe. And that's a big lesson that I learned this year, yeah, in 2025. So I'm moving into my 50th year. I'm going to be 50 in 2 weeks. So level 50 is unlocking. And this is strange, because I know now who I am. I know there's multiple versions of me that were born at different times. I've been aged, I've been de-aged, I've been on this planet, I've been off this planet, I've been in this planet, I've been everywhere. So in my mind, I don't feel like I'm 50. I wouldn't even know what that felt like. And because I was born in 1975, Julie was born in 1975, and when you looked at people who would have been 50 when I was growing up, didn't look like how we all look now, do they? You know, there's a lot more kind of like this Gen X kind of energy. There's a lot more playfulness for sure. There's a lot more carefree. And so yeah, so I grew up with neglect for sure. My sisters did try and take care of me, and but my parents were neglectful because their main focus was their business, trying to make money. But I also seem to fall into that pattern as well of like, gotta pay the bills, gotta pay the bills. So I do need to check in on my son because he's gonna be 16 next month. He's gonna be 16. So this is a quite a big year for me. So 2026, I'm just gonna pull some cards and see. I'm going to have a look at the Akashic Oracle and see, please can we have a look, what's the general focus for 2026? Getting quite a few, prosperity mindset. Prosperity mindset. So in 2026, personally, I'm going to be focusing on what does prosperity mean to me. Okay, so that might be something that you want to start thinking about. And when you look at this card, it's very lush. There's lots of elemental energies. Oh, it's just a big kind of deep breath, kind of reset card, and knowing that that water energy is always flowing. So there's always prosperity coming in and out. So what is prosperity? Is it time, energy, money? Is it health? Is it friends? Is it food? What is prosperity? So it's unlikely that it's just going to be about money. For me this year, it's been about time and allowance and healing my body. Yeah, so I've moved into an overflow of healing. I've still got a lot to do. So what's the potential challenge for 2026, please? What am I going to struggle with personally? There's a couple coming at me. Pick this one. Financial freedom is my challenge. So my yearly focus is prosperity mindset, but I'm also going to struggle to stay in financial freedom, and this comes back into solar plexus energy. So yeah, I do feel like I hustle sometimes, because it does seem to me no matter what you do on social media or how much you put yourself out there, how good your website is, doesn't really matter. There's always some kind of element of hustle. When you want to just say to the universe, I'm here, support me, you know, and the universe wants you to be supported. But financial freedom is my challenge for 2026 as I move from November onwards into my 51st year. Okay, is there anything that we need to release from the timeline to help me do these things? Money fears. So this is what I'm going to be working on for the next 2 weeks before my birthday, is releasing that fear energy. So fear energy comes from your root chakra. That's kind of where it's stored, that red energy. So if you're not grounded, if you're not stable, then you're going to be in fear and anxiety. And that's kind of how this world is designed, just to keep us in that loose state so they can just keep harnessing those, you know, unwanted energies from you. So this is what I've just pulled 3 financial cards, and that's pretty unheard of for me. So yeah, so I'm going to do some work on this today, see if I can release fear, money fears. I will be doing some readings on Typical Skeptic podcast this month. It may even be on my birthday, or the day after my birthday, my time. So, because that's going to be really, really cool. But yeah, so I just thought I'd share this with you guys. Because for me, the year is coming to an end already. That's how I feel. So I don't know if anyone else feels the same. That this is, we don't even need to get to Christmas kind of thing, that the year's already ending at this point. Something big is about to change is how I feel. But I do feel like I'm moving into freedom energy, that I'm moving into, like, I can stretch my wings out kind of energy. And a big sigh of relief because I just finished the World Pathways Pagan Festival, and that had been kind of hanging over me for a full 12 months of would I be able to organise it, was I going to get the foot flow, you know, that kind of thing. So that's gone now. So I'm moving into Christmas market phase and unlocking more super soldier things. So the altars I've been working with lately, I have diplomatic altars on Mars, which have come in very, very strongly, and basically to try and draw us all together and to take stock of the situation. I've got a synthetic altar who's on a station, and bringing my awareness into clones. And what I seem to notice that I can tell, I can kind of look at people now, know if they're different, if they're human, if there's something else or whatever. So that's an ability that's growing. Then I'm working with Ivan Teller the other day, doing an interview with him. He said that there's a version of me that he's calling Jet, that she has a pink mohawk, and she's like a rescue ranger. She's got a ray gun, and she's just exploring the galaxy with her pals, her teenage pals, and they're just getting up to mischief, basically. So I'm going to ask about that on the webinar this week to get a bit more details about her and see if I can tune into her fun energy and see what she's up to. So what a really weird way to live your life, but this is it. This is where we're at. So my friend Jill, who used to help me run my Mystical Wellness studio a couple of years ago, she basically red pilled me, and I say 3 years ago. So what I thought was being a starseed, she said to me, "That's not what a starseed is. That's a fluffy bunny, like you know nothing," kind of thing. And she set me off on this path. And I had a reading with Sandra Green and her guide Morris. And Morris had said a phrase that stays with me till this day. I mean, the reading wasn't recorded, but I always remember what he said, because at the time I was so far from being who I am now, I just couldn't fathom it. Could not fathom that I'd ever be doing a video, I'd ever be talking about these things, that I'd ever be even contemplating lives off planet and stuff like that. Morris said that he saw me in a room that was like a United Nations of planets, and he saw me speaking on ETs and disclosure and other things. And I see that now. I see the emissary, role coming in now, where I couldn't have imagined it 3 years ago. So it blew my mind. And but yeah, we're definitely on track. We're heading in the right direction. I'm just going to ask the gateway cards for a message for collective, for anybody who's watching this replay. What do we need to know? What's happening? How can we be supported? Okay. So what do we need to know? It says Palladian activation, coming together, harmony in the heavens, and resolution. So whatever's happening right now in November 2025, it is bringing us all together. Now this could be that 3-eye atlas that's in space there. Something's being resolved. Harmony is coming in. Yeah, so Palladians are saying that we're receiving healing. I actually do Palladian crystal healing. It's called Tamiana. So I'm going to start doing that more as well now once I get my room sorted. Okay, more guidance. We've got soul star activation, fulfilling soul contracts, remembering who you are. So this is collective. We're waking up. Finally, everyone's waking up. Some of us have been awake for a really long time. We're setting the scene, doing the groundwork, waiting for everybody else to be ready. And we all wake up at set times, set contracts. So people who were, awake in the 50s, 60s, 70s, were paving that way. Then you come into the 80s, 90s, 2000s, paving that way. So I've been on my spiritual journey for like 30 years. And probably before that even as well. So sometimes it does feel like, oh, finally. But whereas I've had to do 30 years of work, some people are waking up like that, full activation, memory recall, and you're just like, oh, why couldn't I have that? Why couldn't I just get my full, my full brain back? Why have I had to work at it so hard for 30 years? So, but because that's what my soul wanted to do, basically. Yeah, so remembering who you are. So I did a great video recently with Matthew Mornian, and it says on it, remember your mission. So do go and check out that video. I've got some fantastic videos on my channel. If you would like to be a guest, please do send me a message, and we'll see what is possible. Okay. November, I'm trying to take on the funnest, most exciting guests I could possibly find, so we can have lots of fun interactions on my birthday month. So as we move forward, the guidance is voice activation, angelic attunement, divine support. So we've got Seraphim Gateway. Okay, divine support. So angels, guardians, guides are all around. I'm just going to grab a deck. So this is the Goddesses, Gods and Guardians deck by Sophie Bashford. Okay, this deck is beautiful. Please can we have 1 or 2 guardians that would like to support my collective, please, as we move towards the end of 2025. Who can we have? Okay, there's actually 3 that are coming forward. So the first guardian is Hecate, past life healing. Perfect, because we're in kind of Samhain energy right now. We're just I'm not sure what the date is, maybe 4th of November. Hecate is coming in and saying past life healing. So just know that all the work that you do now is healing your full lineage. I felt that all year. I really have. And you can see she's holding a blue flame. Now this blue flame has come from Arcturus, and I felt it coming in July. My Arcturian DNA activated more dominantly from July onwards. There's a session that happened on The Typical Skeptic with David Starr and Philip Barrow while I was in Glastonbury. While I was kind of on a ley line near the Chalice Well and everything, they did this massive clearing on my energy field. One of the main things was the blue flame came in. So I felt my natural violet flame merge with this blue flame, which brought in a lot more truth, a lot more integrity, a lot more justice into the collective energy field. Yeah. So Hecate is coming in. So even the darker goddesses, they light their way for you. So you don't need to be worried about working with a darker goddess. Okay. Oh, we've got Hod. Tell the truth. Okay, exactly what I was just saying, that truth, integrity. Yeah, so Hod is coming in. And then we got Epona, beautiful earth magic. So I'm just going to find some information on Hod because he's not one that I've worked with very often. I think when I got the deck, he initially came out quite a lot. I've been mainly working with Hela, goddess of Helheim, lately. So Hod is saying, tell the truth, bring it out into the open, be true to your feelings. Okay, and you guys, I put everything out there. I really do. I try to be as full disclosure as I possibly can, probably to my own detriment sometimes, but I put it all out there. So it says, Hod is blind, god of winter in Norse mythology. He held a quiet inner strength. How perfect that he's coming out for us right now as we head into winter. Hod was tricked by the god Loki into firing an arrow made of mistletoe, which killed his twin brother Balder. Despite his tragic mistake, Hod becomes his twin's companion in the underworld after his own death. Hod makes amends by being honest about his error and becoming a spiritual counselor to Balder. So yeah, so to being honest, so I think it is important that we do try and stay in truth and integrity as much as we can, you know, and things are always going to be interpreted differently. Like somebody said to me recently that because of my emotional range is so limited, that they were initially quite put off by me and they thought, oh, I'm not sure. And then they got to know me and they can see what I'm like. This is me all the time. This is it. I don't have different versions, like generally. It's just occasionally the rage monster comes out. That's the only one I've noticed alter into. So Norse legend says that Hod survived Ragnarok, a destructive period preceding a new world. This basically the time we're in, isn't it? Through his atonement, goes on to rule alongside Balder. Hod's symbols are mistletoe and darkness. Okay, so Hod's steadfast presence is here to remove the blindfold from your eyes. He invites you to look squarely at truth you've been avoiding. Yeah, recently I connected with somebody that I'd kind of been avoiding all year because I found their voice made me emotional. So I knew there was some kind of connection there with that person. But in the end, I did reach out to them and they were so lovely. And next year I'll make plans to work with that person for my emotional healing. So, but you know, so it's kind of taking that first step. That's important, I think. So it says here, be completely honest with yourself about your real feelings. If you've made a mistake, do your best to make amends. Integrity is essential for a clear path ahead. Sticking your head in the sand only works for so long. The truth always surfaces somehow. Once you face up to reality, you can access all the energy and support you need. Denial is a defensive state in which you refuse to accept the truth. It's recognized as a stage in the grief process. Denial, guilt, and shame can go hand in hand. These are heavy feelings. Hod encourages you to get therapeutic support to work through these emotions. So that's kind of where I'm definitely moving into, is I will need to get more support with my emotional healing soon. I spent a lot of money in the last few years working with somebody to help me identify emotions. And what I found for me was the best technique was to just call them out, to literally call them out. So like guilt, I see you, I love you, I lift and release you, you know, and that works for me personally. I work with it as a quantum command. So, you know, I'll bring in lots of crystalline frequencies, crystalline energies to wash through my body to help me lift and release. I use breath work because for me, emotions are not that easy to identify. You know, I really don't have the correct response that other people might have. So especially if you see me on like a round table or something like that, I'm probably doing the wrong expression. Which is why I avoid round tables as much as I can. I only go to things on typical skeptic or things with so much raw. That's about it for me. Yeah. So Hod's a guide through the dark night of the soul and can help with depression or loss of faith. He supports recovery from addiction, crisis, and trauma. He'll sit with you patiently in your darkest moments, never rushing you to heal. Hod will guide your words and actions in any situation where truth is needed. So he can also be coming in for people to help them recover from addictions. And you know what? There's plenty of people in our community who've gone through some really deep trauma and wounding, and they have looked for support in those spaces, you know? And even when you're trying to get away from addiction, they put you onto something else that's equally addictive. I just don't get it. So, you know, there's always something. For me, it's Pepsi Max. That's kind of like my support thing. That's as bad as it gets for me these days, is the Pepsi Max. I wish I could get rid of it. I know it's rotting my body. I know it's affecting my bone density and things like that, but I still feel like I've got this contract, and I've had loads of people look and try and disconnect me, but it seems to be it's like a safety thing. So that's something I'm going to be working on next year. So additional meanings for Hod coming forward is deception or misinformation could be at play. Check all the facts, okay? Don't try to be like others, be naturally and authentically you. There's an invocation. It says, the truth is safe. Honesty aligns me with my highest purpose, okay, which is beautiful. Okay, so I just want to speak to one thing before I finish, and it's about the deception on misinformation. So I do believe that in our community there is a lot of misinformation because we're all looking at things from different points of view, which is absolutely perfect. But and there may be people that have deception or they just can't see because there's a lot of targeting and handling that goes on. Yeah, so we're kind of being pitted up against each other within the disclosure, super soldier community, or even spiritual wellness community. There's always going to be people that we gel with and we don't. There's going to be light and there's going to be dark, and it has to be that way because there's always going to be balance. And in my last disclosure diary video, it was about embracing and loving just who we are now. Yeah, and see if we can do that. But I do believe that there will always be some kind of program or targeting or something like that. And at the start of the year, we heard about it's gone up my mind now. See if they're targeting my mind. Oblivion, Project Oblivion. We heard about Project Oblivion, and then everyone started to talk about Project Oblivion, and then it became a hot topic, and then I kind of believe that we've made it happen. That's my personal opinion. I believe we've made it happen. It's probably not a popular opinion, but I believe we have. You know, if somebody plants a seed and then enough people put energy into it, that's what happens, isn't it? So I think at this point in time, November 2025, we just need to move more into that earth energy, that love, that magic, and we need to embrace where we are right now. So yeah, so our community is in turmoil, and so we're being disconnected from each other left, right, and centre. All we can do is focus on what we can control, do our own personal healing, and we will all naturally gravitate towards one another. Yeah, so we just need to go within. We just need to go within. That's what we need to do. And it's okay if we take time away from each other once in a while to do that healing, because we're all on a healing journey, especially with the super soldier stuff, especially with the Milab stuff. You know, our whole childhoods were rooted in fear, in torture, in despicable things. We need to heal. We need to heal, and that takes time. So it's really natural, it's really normal that we're going to have these ups and downs, these coming togethers and these falling outs. I think that's just really natural and normal. So we focus on that love, compassion, that empathy. Just focus on your own healing and what you can control. Okay, and then naturally we will all start to gravitate towards the right people in the end. I know that to be true. I do. And you know, and just staying out of other people's business as well. If it's not yours, then don't own it, don't accept it. It's just an interesting point of view, and we just focus on ourselves, okay? But not in a I'm going to isolate myself kind of way, as going into ourselves to say I'm going to be the best version of myself kind of way. And then when I'm doing that, when I'm healing me, when I'm becoming my best version, I know that the right frequency of other best version people will be drawn to me, and I'll be drawn to them, and we'll come together in truth and integrity, and we'll heal our community. I know that to be true, and please let me know in the comments what you think about this. So I'm just going to read a little bit from Epona. And she says, Earth magic. And it says, Mother Gaia is speaking. Nature's jewels bring healing and protection. Honoured among the Celts, Romans, and North Africans as protector of horses, Epona was said to be the offering of a mare and a mortal king. Ah. Within feminine spirituality, she dwells in the forest as fairy queen and can appear as a woman, a horse, and sometimes a river or water spirit. She's an environmental warrior, connecting humanity with the healing magic of nature. Her symbols are horses, cornucopia, and keys. So, Epona coming out right now. This is a sign to enter swiftly into the healing power of nature. You need to connect with the magic that lies within trees, plants, water, and crystals. You're being guided towards a special natural setting to relax your body and engage your spirit. Be open to receiving a message delivered through your feelings and intuition. Queen Epona, she says, you are a crystal, a natural healer. The jewels of the earth are calling to you. They bring spiritual protection and reattune you to magical powers. Listen to the messages given by trees, streams, flowers, plants, and crystals. They hold vital keys to protecting Mother Gaia. They're also essential for your well-being and spiritual path right now. The elementals, nature spirits such as fairies, pixies, water sprites, and mermaids are deeply concerned about environmental damage and climate change. There's a message they wish to get through about this crucial issue. Okay, so consider this card a thank you, and please keep going. Message from the elementals. Okay, it says take regular breaks in nature and you'll hear us cheering you on. Take action on your ideas for helping the environment. Use vibrational flower essences or herbal remedies. Move out of the city and closer to nature. I actually live between two parks within like a few blocks. So there's a park just around the corner here, and I hardly ever go because it's up this steep hill. And I have my surgery on my foot. So I'm going to try and get out tomorrow maybe. It's pretty grey out there right now. So train as or visit a crystal healing practitioner. I'm a crystal therapist. Epona is a protector of horses. So this card may represent a connection to a horse or a unicorn. I'm going to add in there. So the invocation is I now receive sacred medicine from nature. I support Earth's healing process. I think that's such a beautiful message to finish on. It's connecting into the elements. So I am an elemental healer. I hear the element frequencies. I bring them into all the work that I do, especially my card readings when I do Akashic record readings. Got air element coming in. So I bring the elements to help me see. So when we work with the earth energy, I call that your grounded focus. Yeah, what you should be doing or where you are right now. That's your focus right now. When we work with the air energy, this is your communication. So the words you think and say, the words you should be hearing. When we work with fire energy, that's your transformation. So as a violet flame rescue healer, I work with the violet flame with compassion and empathy and Guan Yin. Yeah, with the violet flame Reiki. With the water energy, this is not only your personal healing and your emotions, but I see it as the flow of your pathway is how I see water. And then I bring in all of those elements into my readings to see you as the storm, that force to be reckoned with. So how you're moving forward. Yeah, kind of what your highest potential is. So that's how I work with the elements, and they come into my readings as guides, which I love to do. So I've got a 50% sale on my website in November. The coupon code will be November, and and because it's my birthday celebration. So if you'd like to book in with me, if you'd like to go deeper, if you'd like to have a one-to-one, please head to my website. There's also mentorship packages on there, and I'm going to be reviewing the pricing on some of them as well, to make sure that there's one that's just quite, quite affordable. So if you just want to have a check-in with me, if you want to come on my groups and things like that, then I'll make an affordable package available. I do have some time available for people who would just like to do swaps or exchanges. So if you don't have the financials to be able to pay for services right now, but you need support, please let me know, and then we can work out some kind of barter, some kind of exchange, energy exchange of some sort, so that we can support each other. So I think that's a really important part of the work that we do. So I will always try my best to be able to support you in some way, and we can do some kind of energy exchange. I think I've got somebody making me a song, and I've got somebody creating a little piece of artwork for me as well. So if I can help you, I will try and help you. So please do reach out. If I can support you, I will. If I can't support you, I'll refer you to somebody who I think might be better suited. But we will always be going back to those top tips of daily meditation, centering into your heart, laughing as much as you can, and getting grounded outside. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.